Oh, hey, what's going on, everybody? TujoPanda back and actually talk about something else today. By something else, it's going to be a topic of discussion. So, friendship. How much value do you place on friendship? How much value do you place on the friends that you know right now? We being inherently social animals at heart, we have a need for people, whether it's just meeting people as in passing fancy as acquaintances or sharing deep, complex relationships with them insofar as friends or maybe even more intimate relationships such as romance. It really just boils down to the fact that at the end of the day, some people, they don't need people as often as other people do. Some need a lot of attention, They need that sense of, worth and validation to continue through the day. And so they put a lot of value on their friends, to the point that they are willing to spend hours upon hours enjoying the company of others to, feel that sense of place and certainty that, they have a place in, greater society, I guess. Other people, they're more of a loner type. They would rather a few friends that they can absolutely rely upon if anything bad happens, or just for company when they have the need for socialization, There's a lot of layers to all this, but to boil it down, I would imagine that most of you, if not all of you, have a good fair amount of friends. Maybe some of you went through something, and for whatever reason, you don't have as many friends as you used to, and it sucks, but at the same time, I guess I reflect upon a particular quote from John Henry Eden, of all people, from Fallout 3. For it is better to be alone than in bad company. Now, how much truth there is in that statement, well, that's really for you to decide. I can only tell you that it varies for everybody, And there is value in the sense of having a lot of friends, because that just increases your chances of occupying your life with various people. It will expose you to a great deal of diversity because no two people are alike. There might be similarities between various people, but at the same time, the differences and contrasts between such individuals will contribute to you being a more well-rounded person. You will be exposed to a greater number of ideals, things that will, it may challenge your personal ideals, but at the same time, your ideals are worth nothing if they're not tested along the way, Something for you to use as a frame of reference to weigh your ideals against theirs. Granted, some people treat that as a competition. I remember growing up that I've had a number of friends that were more interested in being always Mr. Right versus being more cooperative. If they knew something that I didn't, it was something to be lorded over me, less that they wanted to educate me or enlighten me on a particular topic, and more about, oh, I'm right, you're wrong, you're stupid, I'm smart. And I'm sure that you face that too, at least occasionally. But that's not really the point of this video. What I'm trying to say is that friendship is valid and valuable. But, obviously, how many friends that you can tolerate at any given time is really going to depend on you. Your lifestyle choices, your personality, it all factors into who you're best compatible with, because the sense of empathy that you will have with other people is going to really weigh upon how many friends you're going to have in some cases, Even if a lot of people like you, who's to say that you like them? Who's to say that they really mesh with your style, your sense of humor, what you value as an individual? And I mention you a lot because that is really the common component here. A friendship's not a friendship unless it's a mutual thing between both parties. And I know that sounds obvious, it's like a stud moment, but at the same time, a lot of people don't think that way. In fact, the whole reason that I'm bringing this topic of discussion up right now is that, anecdotally, it feels like in the year of our Lord and Savior, Jesus Christ, Guantanamo Christ-Chan, friendship isn't worth that much. People claim that it does. People like to make a lot of assertions that, the friends that they have in their life are good beings and that they are worth having around. But, I would say honestly, in this sort of cesspool of narcissism and egotism and a lot of sort of shallow materialism, friendship ain't worth that much. I mean, I'm not sure if it's a... I would speculate that it's a situation of a lot of people. So if things don't work out with some people, you just kind of jump to the next. Kind of like with relationships, you know? If it didn't work out with that guy or girl, you jump to the next one and you go from there. But, you know, it never really sat right with me, the ideal that people were replaceable. I don't consider anybody to be replaceable, you know? The memories that you share with that person in good experiences and bad experiences are going to be unique to them. And the only thing, like, after a friendship ends that keeps that individual alive in your mind is the memory, you know? They can be good memories, they can be bad memories. But it will have a significant, meaningful impact on you depending on the amount of time that you spent with them. But maybe I'm getting a little bit too far ahead of myself. Anyway, I'm applying this sort of thing to the furry fandom, alright? And the furry fandom, it's sort of a hypocritical fandom. It's hypocritical in the sense that for as many times as I hear people say, oh, the furry fandom is such a good place, it's so welcoming and honest and forthcoming and truthful that everybody is welcome and has a place here. But, well, that's just kind of a surface observation. You're never really sure about how people actually feel, because in my experience, a lot of people typically adorn a mask. They would rather wear a mask and be passive-aggressive or deceitful in their interactions with others, whether it be friend groups or individuals, than to be open and honest. Maybe there's a reason for that. I mean, obviously, you lift the mask off. The mystery's gone. What made you truly unique and attractive to other people is suddenly gone, and maybe what's hiding underneath is not necessarily attractive. You are making yourself vulnerable to other people, and you don't like that. You can't stomach that. So, when you adorn the mask, you're attractive to many more people than you would otherwise. More people are interested in the idealized image of you that you project, rather than what's actually on the inside. Obviously not true for a lot of people, but there are enough people that after a sufficient amount of time of hanging out with people like that, they get the sense that there is not all that much that is authentic in how they go about themselves. We haven't even discussed the fact that, like, people, if they're in a group setting, they will act a little bit differently than if they're one-on-one. Because one-on-one, all of the focus is on you and them. There's nothing else to distract you. There's nothing else to maybe adulterate the dynamic between the group. It is solely you and the other person. This is a topic of interest that I wanted to talk about for a while now, but, you know, in the face of drama and gaming, I kind of put it off. But I'm bringing it up now because it's partly drawing from my own experiences, but also cross-referenced against the experiences of friends or former friends. And I thought it was interesting enough that, you know, we could just talk about it, you know? I'm going to avoid making blanketed assertions, but for the purposes of keeping the video, you know, in a reasonable time frame rather than excessively long, I'm going to be talking about things in a very simplified sense, all right? And while some of this stuff is going to seem very obvious, it feels like people need a gentle reminder, you know? Anyway, let's go ahead and avail ourselves to a different world and a change of scenery, shall we? You know, I was always of the belief that friendships have a shelf life. And I'm not talking about, like, you just cycle out your friends every so often arbitrarily. There's usually a reason for that, alright? As in, you change over the years, they change over the years. There comes a point where there's the possibility that they are no longer the same person that you remember meeting up with years ago. And you're no longer the same person that you were when they met up with you years ago. That momentary overlap where your lives intersected in the middle could be lost forever. Now, I'm not saying that's inevitability. I'm just saying it's a possibility. What should ideally be happening in a perfect world is that you both grow up together. You develop as people together, you gain newfound insights into your own self, and your identity, your core essences, your being develops, alongside theirs. And I'm not saying that you become a carbon copy of them. It's just that you both develop in such a way that you can remain compatible with each other and have the same maturity that, the other has. Unless you're both the same idiotic, shithead that you were back in high school where you're just cracking wise about, this and that. It depends on the person, because I've known people that they had not developed beyond maybe a couple years after high school. It's unfortunate, but I no longer find value in them as much as I do some other people that I stayed in contact with. And then there are situations where you don't stay in contact at all. You drift apart. Whether it's because life got too hard or there were a bunch of different things happening in your life and your friend's life. It could be any number of things, honestly. Hell, moving out of state. That could be a big one. You're no longer directly in contact with it and they're no longer relevant to your life. Unless you talk every day on Discord or something like that or over the phone. But people drift apart, The things that are directly in front of them are going to take precedent over keeping touch with you. Now, saying that friendships have a shelf life, there are some friendships that you can close up the jar, put it on the shelf, it'll be like liquid sunshine. Pretty much like a jar of honey. It's never going to spoil. You can get back to it, it's going to taste just as sweet as before. Whereas other people, it's pretty much like jarring milk, putting it on the shelf and seeing how long it lasts. Probably not very long. And there's different components to all that, But how do you know someone's your friend? Well, the basic should be that you both want the best from one another. They want the best for you, you want the best for them. There is a sense of commonality between you, whether you share interests together or just the fact that your personalities are compatible. You can trust in them and confide in them, and they can trust and confide in you. And it's a cooperative motion. I've seen friendships and I've been in relationships where it was more competitive, but it shouldn't be that way. It can be that way a little bit, like sports, video games, what have you, but it shouldn't be a constant game of one-upsmanship, in whatever you do. Now, a little bit of playful competitiveness and rivalry. That's to be expected from some people, but it shouldn't take precedent over the fact that you both are friends, all right? Now, it gets a little bit more complicated when you depart from just two people into a whole group of people. And I'd say a medium-sized group would be 5 friends. A larger size group would be 8 friends. So there's various that's adding a whole lot of layers to something like that. And it's in situations like that where the group dynamic, depending on how long that you've had regular contact with those 7 other people, 4 other people, if it's a medium-sized friendship, is going to determine your group dynamic, because you're all not going to be exactly the same. Some of you are going to be better at doing things or even speaking than other people, and your natural born charisma is going to come out. But to what extent, it really depends on the people that we're talking about here. Because, somebody that has a lot of charisma and, maybe they look attractive and they have also experiences that they can bring to the table, they're probably going to shine out as being the so-called leader. And, in a group of friends, no one's necessarily the leader, but there's people that people are just going to subconsciously respect more than perhaps you or other members of the group. A little bit more than any other member of the group, honestly. It's happened, and it continues to happen, but, it wouldn't be, explicitly known, hey, I'm the leader of this group. No, it would be something that would be, subtly agreed upon by the rest of the members of the group. They would look to this person for guidance or advice, or they would wait until they make the call to do something, whether it's to hang out, meet up, go to the movies, or play video games, what have you. They would be sort of looked to as, quote-unquote, the leader And in some cases, there is a sense of jealousy from some people, and that breeds into the whole rivalry thing. And, that's one problem with groups is that it's very easy for somebody with a toxic personality to coast for a little bit and potentially cause some drama, potentially cause some chaos along the way, There's people out there that if they see an opportunity, they'll go for it. And it's unfortunate, but it happens, It's not going to be, inevitable. It's not going to be perpetual, because eventually they're going to be found out for their bad behavior. But telling a handful of white lies can carry somebody for a really long time, Let's talk about a different kind of group, shall we? I was describing more of a well-rounded group. A group of well-meaning individuals that come together out of mutual interest because, you all need people in life, and you decide, hey, these people are pretty fun to hang around with. I'd like to have some fun, enjoy, socialization and get a sense of having place in a group. There's groups of, people out there that are kind of just, they wallow in their own misery, There's the sense of, you have that friend that, nothing is ever good. Now, don't misunderstand me when I say this. Sometimes, some people are a little bit prone to a little bit more, how would you say, misfortune and misery than other people. Their mother died, they had a car accident, they just got fired from work, and they're going through some problems, But at the same time, they didn't necessarily do anything to bring that upon themselves, all right? It just happened. And, in some cases, you're going to be the person there that's going to be the shoulder to cry on, or if you know them well enough, you might even pitch money to try to get them out of the hole that they've, been dropped into. Other times, it's a little bit less altruistic than that. For instance, what if you got a mooch that's like a friend and they just expect you to help them? At no point should you just unilaterally support somebody and just trust them blindly, even if you respect them as sort of like a mentor figure or somebody that you would look up to. That's not really a friendship at that point, is it? That's you being a blind supporter to them. In the sense of friends as a group, it should be out of mutual interest, and there should be a sense of, hey, we're all right together, and we should keep this going. But you have some people that their ideal friendship, they become what I call a toady. The toady just kind of does whatever the person that they will look up to will tell them. Then you got what I was saying before, the mooch. And the mooch just expects stuff out of friends. They don't see friendship as a means, an obligation that you have to them as much as they have to you. It's all one-sided, it's all going one way, and that's to them, Obviously not somebody that you look out for, which is a good segue into the toxic friend. The one that, maybe misfortune does happen to them, but they're certainly not taking it in a dignified manner. They are just kind of hateful, spiteful, and want to bring everybody else around them down. And you'd be like, Tujo, this sounds pretty crazy. I mean, who's going to tolerate somebody like that? You'd be surprised to know, but it doesn't take that much. It just takes a little bit of time for there to be a relationship built between two people and some opportunity, and then they got a friend for a long time. How long that's going to be, I don't know, but they have a friend that they're going to be able to just offload the toxicity to, all their little problems, never really moving towards a resolution unless it magically goes, the problem magically just goes away, or somebody bails them out, but they just kind of unload. In fact, I've heard stories about people like that they're just constantly projecting negativity outwards, whether they hate somebody because of some arbitrary thing that other person did to them, and they just wallow in it, in some cases for years, or they are angry about their prospects in life, where they are, how they ended up here, and that they think they deserve better, which in some cases maybe they do, but you should never feel entitled to the good fortunes of life. Life is random, you know? There's things that you can do right now to sort of adjust what the future holds in store for you, but at no point should you ever feel entitled to, you know, good fortune and good graces of life. You know, that's not how life works. If it worked that way, it'd be pretty fucking boring, I would imagine, but you want people around you that, you know, you can tell bad news to, and they're not going to judge you for it. Now, if you killed somebody and you meant to kill them, I don't know, like, your friend probably wouldn't be very happy to hear about that, and they'd probably turn you into police, but, you know, I'm talking about, you know, your father died, or your mother died, or a relative died, and you just need a shoulder to cry on, then they'll listen to you, and they'll offer, you know, words of encouragement to try to pick you up, pick your mood up from where it was. And that's great, you know? If you have people like that, that is worth far more than money. If you're a mooch type, I'm talking about. Because, like, a lot of people, it feels like they just don't have the time of day. They don't have the mental or physical energy to offer you. They don't have the emotional energy. You know, speaking of which, not to get too off topic here, but that's another philosophy that I sort of adopted. The ideals of emotional energy. There are people out there that will come into your life, and just being around them, just getting a chance to talk to them, to, you know, enjoy your time with them, it's going to uplift you. You're going to feel, you know, energized after spending a significant amount of time with them. Inversely, there's people, you know, that sap that energy. You know, they kind of come over, and just being around them is enough to try your patience. You start to feel a little anxious, maybe. You start to feel a little bit, you know, sapped. That your energy, like your emotional energy, your fuck all energy, is getting drained. By the end of the day, you just don't give a shit anymore. You have no more fucks to give. And, you know, there's people like that too. Obviously, the people that sort of drain you, that more factors into the toxic friend, or perhaps even what I call to be social vampires. Social vampires feed off of the negative emotions of others, you know, kind of like a sponge. They kind of want to see you in a bad place so they can lap that up, you know, like blood. It's unfortunate, but I've seen plenty of agents of chaos that operate like that. They will intentionally create a situation which will cause havoc and mayhem for either you or the people in the group that you are a part of, for you all to solve the problem or to deal with the drama as is. They will tell somebody something that wasn't true, and they will say something else to another person, and then it becomes a vicious cycle of lies, denies, and, you know, at the end of the day, nobody knows who to trust anymore. I was in a situation like that, and I would mention the name right now, but I think it's worth better to save that name for later, because it will probably be a topic of discussion in a future video. Anyway, I think we should move on to another category, and we'll probably get a change of scenery here. So, back in a sec. It's quiet here. So, like I was saying before, the emotional energy thing, it's important because it will determine how much energy that you have to deal with other people, because there are times that you're just going to want to isolate yourself. You're going to want to just lock yourself in, binge watch Netflix, binge watch YouTube, maybe play some games, maybe like break out some RPG or some shooter and just play for hours and hours on end. And while you might be playing a multiplayer game, you have no association with the people that you're playing with, usually. And, you know, you can just sort of let your mind wander. You need a break from people from time to time, you know? You can't spend every minute of every day with other people. Some people do try to do that, but it's not healthy, you know? Because you need some time to take care of yourself. You need some time to, like, you know, eat a solid meal, maybe, like, work on a project or your hobbies, and to do things that are, like, you know, considered chores or errands for your own well-being. And, you know, if you're a healthy individual that's well-rounded and balanced, you're going to have a job, or you're going to be going to school, or you're going to be like attending training to get a job. Something that's going to empower and enrich your life, you know? But at the same time, like, all of these complications, whether you got a family or if you got, you know, how large your friend group is, or maybe you're, you know, a member of various different social groups, so you just jump from one group to another. It's going to determine how much energy that you have to give to other people, how much time you can give them, how much of your energy can you give them, and how sincere and, like, the best person that you possibly can be, like, in their company, that you can be for how long. Because, you know, like I said before, some people, they're going to empower you, they're going to enrich you. Every discussion with them is going to be enriching in some way, or just, you know, make you feel good. You know, there's that dopamine hit in your head when you see that person that you're really looking forward to hanging out with or seeing. Then there's people that you kind of go, oh no, when you see them coming, and you don't want to spend any more than maybe 5 minutes with them, because that's about as much as you can tolerate. So worst comes to worst, why don't you just carry a little hip flask on you? Anytime that you see that person that you absolutely cannot tolerate. And if you're wondering why, like, you know, in this hypothetical situation, people don't cut the cord and just turn and run the other way, well, people don't want to deal with conflict, you know? They don't want to hurt somebody's feelings. Because that person that's coming over could just be annoying. Very fucking annoying. But they're not necessarily a bad person, they just don't know any better. They didn't pick up on the social cues as they were growing up. And there is a component to this sort of mental maturity thing. Some people mature a lot more quickly than others, you know, growing up. You know, some people live sheltered lives, and that has impacted them in profound ways as far as how they can meaningfully socialize with other people. Because as far as the furry fandom goes, I see a lot of, like, cool people, but I also see a lot of awkward people. People that don't seem like, when they start talking, it's just like, oh, geez, you're a winner, aren't you? Like, you sound like a real winner. And, you know, it's... Then you see a lot of people that they will try to put somebody else down for them to seem so much better by comparison, which seems kind of stupid, because it's like, if you're like acting this way for like a sense of e-clout or like recognition, there's not a whole lot of reward unless maybe you're an artist or a fursuit maker or some sort of content maker, content creator that's making content that is in high demand. You know, so that's where we sort of get into the shallowness and things. Also, now that I mention that, it's probably worth mentioning, because have you known somebody that made it big on Twitch or YouTube or maybe someplace else? That boost in popularity in some cases can make for a better person, but in most cases it seems to dilute their mode of character a little bit. Popularity should be something that you want, but at the same time, you're not going to go above and beyond to get. Because, you know, some people, it's really true luck of the draw, your personality, sort of like the hands of fate, as they were. Because the audiences out there, the people that are looking to, like, for certain content or looking for a certain person, they just appear. And they're recognized and admired, you know, for what they do, but they have to become known. It has to be, I guess in today's day and age, it has to become viral. Something that everybody sees and they like it, and it's very randomized, you know. Some people get lucky, most don't, you know. It's hard to hit it big. But you shouldn't look for popularity, because that's going to change you as an individual, and that's also going to bring a lot more complexity to your life. Now, I mention this because in the furry fandom, there's a lot of people that want to become a popufur. People have been willing to go above and beyond in the efforts of becoming recognized and admired by countless furries out there, you know, for just a taste of that e-cloud. They want the views, they want the recognition, they want the admiration from various people that they don't even know out there. All of that popularity in some cases brings about that sense of accomplishment. I finally made it. I'm finally a popufur. I'm finally popular. I'm going to continue to do what I do best, and that's make this content, or make this artwork, or, you know, make this fursuit. Now, the problem with that is that the friends that you already had before you made it big, I've seen some cases where Like, because of that sudden burst of popularity, those friends that they currently had just kind of drift away. They can't keep up. And it's so inconvenient to hang out with that popular person that, the popular person has to make the time to separate them from their audience to hang out with friends and to enjoy a good time. And that takes time away from their craft, whether it's being a YouTuber, a Twitch streamer, or maybe even a artist. That takes time. You have to sacrifice something for the other. And some people make the wrong choice. They don't live that balanced life where we all go together. I'm taking my friends with me to this wonderful place of popularity. They leave them behind in some cases, and they're not quite the same person as they used to be because the popularity has brought about a sense of arrogance. Their friends start to lose respect for them. It's unfortunate, but it happens. Other times, people don't know how to handle the popularity. They feel like, compelled to answer to the audience, and they have to really watch out for their code of conduct, like what they do as they are under the spotlight of, the populace. And, that could also create some issues where their friends just kind of drift apart because they can't ever separate themselves from their audience or fan base, and, well, it just kind of falls apart. And then there's that lingering sense of paranoia in the popular person's, the back of their mind. Like, are the people around me really actual friends, or are they just here because they have an overwhelming sense of admiration and adoration for me, that they just want me for being that popular person that got popular in the first place? I can't really say. I've never been popular, but I've known some people along the way that made it big, or at least they got some sense of popularity along the way where everybody seems to love and adore them. And it's whatever. I mean, if it happens, great. If it doesn't, you just have to weigh, like, what you value out of the people that you actually are willing to be yourself to. Because when you're a popular person, everything that you do is under the public spotlight, which you might stay, like, the presentation that you offer your fans may be somewhat similar to what you actually are. But in some cases, people play up an act, and they use that act as a means of adorning the mask. And, sort of, if they didn't adorn the mask, maybe they wouldn't be as popular as they are, Some cases, yes, in some cases, no. The audience doesn't really want somebody that's just lethargic and lazy and not really doing much. They want somebody that's active and energetic and spontaneous and bombastic and, charismatic. That's what they want. Anyway, they also want authenticity. Because if it's found out that you're faking to be something that you're not, well, people aren't going to really appreciate that too much now, are they? Oh, well. Who am I to say? Let's wheel it back to what I was talking about before. So, barring that possibility, I see it more like, how do you get new friends? Like, let's break it down to, like, basics. How do you get more friends? A lot of the friends that I've known, like, over the years, they were people that were present in my everyday life, until I got onto the internet, in which case the dynamic completely shifted because, everything's on social media now. Everything's on some sort of social platform, whether it be Twitter, Discord, YouTube, DeviantArt, Furfinity, the list goes on. But, a lot of those people that I had known in, like, school, they were my classmates, they were my peers. I was in the same place that they were, and we both had to suffer through either middle school or high school together. So, you got to talking to the right people, and you got a sense of, hey, this is a pretty tolerable person, I can get behind this. Or, like, hey, you want to meet after school and play some video games? Like, very basic shit. But in some cases, it was from that time period that some of the best friends would formulate over time. There is only one person that I have kept ever since the second grade. And, like, that was a long-standing friendship. In fact, it was in the period right before 5th grade that I had moved out, but we stayed in contact to the point where I would actually make occasional visits back to the old neighborhood just to see them and spend time with them. They were a pretty cool dude. They still are. We haven't seen each other for a while because of the whole COVID-19 thing, but at the same time, like, it does happen that you have a long-standing friendship that, you know, you can maintain and, like, you know, perpetuate through your own efforts, but it has to be a mutual effort on both parties. You know, if it's just one-sided, you know, that one side that makes all the effort to make it happen is not going to keep doing it. Eventually, they're just going to give up. I remember a lot of people complaining about not feeling respected, or they don't feel as though they're the preferred friend in their friend group for people to spend time with. And they would complain about that audibly to anybody that would listen. And I think that one of the saddest things I've seen in more recently, I'm not saying sad as in pathetic, I'm saying sad as in it literally was pretty fucking sad, was a guy on VR chat, inexplicably. He was in the Shiba world. He was crying. He was crying because it was his birthday. And he told everybody and anybody he possibly could, all of his friends, all of his friend groups, hey, it's going to be my birthday, like, you know, on this date. Can you all come and we can all hang out in VR chat and play games and do stuff? Nobody showed up. He was crying to people that were there that, you know, what he tried to make happen didn't happen. Now, it can be argued that maybe he had waited until the very last minute to say something. Maybe he didn't. Maybe, like, all the people heard him, but something better happened that, like, prevented them from being available at that moment to go to this guy's birthday in VR chat. If you can't show up for somebody's VR chat birthday, that's pretty fucking sad on your part, because it's like, you know, it takes, in most cases, unless you're operating on a Quest or some low underpowered like VR headset, you should have no problems popping that headset on, jumping online, and being able to see your friend, unless you're physically apart from your gaming PC or your VR headset, you know? Like, that is such a low effort thing. Now, in real life, that's a little bit different. Like, now you're involving, like, people that potentially have to drive to a location, and they potentially have to carpool because maybe there's not enough, like, parking spots, like, open in that particular neighborhood for you all to have, like, a parking space. But VR chat, come on. Like, and, you know, it was a Shiba, and nobody showed up. I offered some sympathetic words, and they had to go. You know, I hung out for a bit, and I wished them happy birthday. But that was an extreme case of, like, friends not being there for somebody, at least in more recent memory. Now, maybe there was a good reason for that. Maybe those friends had something else going on, something that took precedent. You know, their house was burning down, their mother was needing to go to the hospital, or, you know, a friend needed a, like, ride somewhere. I don't know, but, you know, like, I mentioned that, kind of like I mentioned in the very beginning, that whole egotism meets narcissism, where some people, they look at their friends less as friends and more as blind supporters. And you should never adopt that mindset when you look at your friends. They shouldn't just exist to, like, you know, lift you up and pat your back and kiss your ass and maybe even help you out when you're in a bind. You look at them because you need to share company and socialize with people that are of like mind to you. And that with that should come mutual sense of respect, but also the willingness to help them as much as you might hope that they will be there to help you. That's what it's all about, you know? Now, I already mentioned some examples and some situations and some circumstances and dynamics that will adulterate that just a little bit. Like your friends. I'm wondering if any of you have a best friend. In today's day and age, it's hard for, like, one particular person to take that spot of being like, you're my best friend. I'd say it jokingly to some people, but it's hard because I can't really in good faith just point at all the different friends in my group and just be like, not you, not you, not you. Oh, fuck no, not you. You're my best friend. But obviously, you're going to naturally, through your own experiences, through, you know, going through thick and thin with somebody, somebody might shine out above all others as your preferred company. That you can utterly trust them with a lot of the things that you're willing to share with them, and in that they helped you. Maybe they continue to help you. Hopefully you're going to be there to help them if they ever need it, but it's impressive to me, like, how some people, they have been through hell and back, and they're still friends today. And, you know, honestly, if you have, like, a certain number of friends, or hell, even if you have one good friend, I would say your life is blessed, you know? But, yeah. Let's go ahead and change scenery again. And we'll get to some closing thoughts here. Sorry if I've been rambling so far, but it's a complicated subject matter. You know, everything with me, it's so situational based because it's really boils down to when somebody complains to me about their friends or they need advice. It is by the set of examples that they offer to me that I can make a educated guess or, you know, formulate some concrete ideal that I can offer them. Just like, you know, disambiguously, like, looking at everything on the table, it's kind of hard. Anyway. At the end of the day, you should accept your friends for who they are. That doesn't mean that you just blindly accept their shortfalls. Like, if someone's a habitual drug user and they're destroying their body and potentially their life by just using drugs, you obviously would try to step in and intervene. You know, it probably wouldn't be the basis by which you got to be friends with them in the first place. It's probably a bad habit they picked up along the way, and you would have a sense of obligation to try to discourage them from destroying their body and the friendships in their life by impressing upon them the ideals like, dude, this is not good for you. You need to stop, you know? And with that, drug abuse, alcohol abuse, maybe they're doing things that are high risk, low reward. Just stupid shit, you know? And you tell them, dude, what the fuck are you doing? Like, your friend isn't going to just be this blind, like, you know, this blind, like, dependent individual that's just going to look to you as a friend no matter what. Your friend is going to have a lot of tolerance, a lot more tolerance for you than, say, a stranger for random bullshit, but it's not going to be inevitable, you know? It's not going to be, like, perpetual, that they're just going to, you know, overlook something, like, you know, whatever happens. They're going to say something, all right? It's by that you should keep yourself, your nose clean, you know, keep your, like, present your best self forward whenever you're in their company, and to try to be the best person that you possibly can be. But obviously you're not going to be feeling it all the time because you're not going to have that emotional energy to be able to do it. So there's certain, like, tolerances that people are going to have, and, you know, there's a certain tolerance on your part that you're going to have for other people. It goes both ways. Friendships should always, in any healthy relationship, you know, whether it be, you know, just friendship or intimate, it's going to go both ways, you know? Friends are going to put up with your bullshit as much as you're going to put up with their bullshit. Depends on how much bullshit you're bringing to the table, because a lot more people, they're carrying a lot more luggage than other people, all right? It's something to bear in mind because, you know, if you're ever wondering why you're not becoming the center of attention, or if you're not, like, attracting the friends that you want to foster good rapport with and to have a sense of, you know, belonging with, then maybe look at yourself a little bit. Judge how friendly and approachable you are, and what are some of the things that are unattractive about you that aren't going to really attract the people to you, you know? Because that's going to be an important factor if you're looking to make some friends. You know, I don't know how young you are, I don't know how old you are, but, you know, with that, with different age groups, obviously with the influx of the internet, age groups, age is meaning less and less, except when it comes to, you know, relationships with minors. Obviously want to discourage that, don't want anybody engaging in that, but age is less important, you know, than it used to be, because people of all ages, you know, especially in the furry fandom, you have gray muzzles that are older furries, but they will still hang out with, selectively, with younger furries, usually between the ages of 20, 21 to maybe 35. Like, is that like 15 years? Is that a decent range? Some people would find that creepy, but there's enough there that people, like, as far as the furry fandom goes and furries in general, like, there's enough they have in common that might be okay. Relationship wise, I'm like, I don't know, but I'm talking about more just people to hang out with, but yeah, like, at no point should you ever take your friends for granted, because they could just as easily be gone the next day. And there are people that fixate on, like, being right, or they feel validated in feeling spiteful and angry at other people for their shortcomings. They don't recognize that maybe their friend had been through a lot, that there was a lot contributing to their, outbursts, whatever drama had occurred up to that point, for them to really, gain a sense of what it was like being in their shoes. I'm not trying to excuse bad behavior, but I'm saying that everybody has their limit, and once you hit your limit, you're not quite playing with a full deck. Like, not everything's just like peachy keen. You might snap at somebody. You might, yell at somebody in some cases. And it sucks, like, if you're the recipient of that. But one fuck up shouldn't cost the entire relationship. Unless it's something like murder or pedophilia or necrophilia or zoophilia. I don't know. I'm talking about fuck ups like that are like shitty in the moment, but they're not something that you would necessarily hold against them for the rest of their lives. Time heals all wounds, I would say, but it would be even better if both parties could come to the table, talk about it, and come to a reasonable, meaningful conclusion or resolution. Because different people. What I've seen is, like, they would rather sacrifice the friendship because they don't have the balls to really come together and talk about how they actually feel about something. Or, they just see it as below them. They don't care enough to, go out of their way to have this conversation with somebody because they feel like that person should be crawling back to them to apologize about something that person doesn't feel like they need to apologize about. And without the apology, the person's like, okay, fuck you, until I get my apology, we are done. And it just, like, taking a step back just seems so fucking petty. Time on this earth, life's too short to, like, be holding a grudge for years and years and years. And, like, to other people, when they hear that, people that don't even know, or they don't know your past history with this other person, they don't know about you, they're going to see, like, you as just kind of a bitter pill. Somebody that's kind of toxic yourself and isn't really bringing a whole lot to the table. You're kind of sucking the wind out of everybody else's sails, and they're not really appreciating that. Alright? It's just worth considering. I'm not saying that you should just accept bad behavior from other people, especially if it's directed at you. But try to get a sense of where they're coming from, Was there a reason? Was this just like an act of malice? Or was that maybe a reactionary reaction on their part to something that you were doing at the time? But yeah, the shallowness, the egotism, the sense of self-worth, people that feel more important than maybe they actually should be, it gets in the way of a lot of things, And I mentioned the whole one little fuck up thing because in some cases, your fair weather friends are so fair weather that it's because nothing's happened yet. And when something happens, they're just going to disappear and not be there for you ever again. And it sucks, but life has a way of sort of weeding out people that maybe don't have your best interests at heart. At the end of the day, you should both be able to come together. Have fun. Be sad when bad things happen, either to you, to your friend, or both of you. And, look out for each other, try to enrich each other's lives, develop one another, offer your insight while they offer you theirs, and you gain a sense of, I wouldn't say complacency, but you're comforted by the fact that you have somebody that you can actually look to through thick and thin, whether to have a good time together, or to have a deep, profound conversation with them when you need it. Because you're going to need some enrichment in that sense eventually. It can't. Life's not all just fun and games perpetually. Hard times will come, but they will also pass. At the end of the day, storm doesn't last forever. The rain will fade, and at the end of that will be a rainbow. Don't be gay. Nah, just kidding. But other than that, what I was going to say before is that with that egotism, the self-centeredness, the selfishness, the narcissism, people seem to look out for themselves and their image. They see image as paramount. The image that they present to other people. They see that as paramount, that they cannot be vulnerable to other people. And the vulnerability to other people, that is a basis by which other people will get a different side of you. You're not going to feel too comfortable about it, but it's something that they can get to know you by. And if they're a good person, they're not going to reveal your deepest, darkest secrets, even after your friendship may end at some point, because they have a sense of, dignity about them, that they can look at this and not be petty. I've seen it both ways. But how do you determine who your real friends are? Well, when adversity shows its ugly head and you're in a bind, even the people that are willing to give you a shoulder to cry on, that will speak volumes over the people that just kind of fade away or make some half-assed excuse why they don't have a moment for you. And, you're going to be able to recognize that sense of communion with them. There will be no mask. There will be nothing in the way of narcissism or egotism to get in the way. They will be sincere, polite, and direct with you. They might also call you an idiot along the way, a couple times, depending on how badly you fucked up. But they're also not going to endlessly do that. They're going to help you out, with whatever. But I suppose it's neither here nor there. Your friends are obviously going to be an acquired taste. It's what some people will value in others, you aren't necessarily going to value in others the same way. Your preferences will shift depending on who people are. You're going to prefer high energy people over low energy people. Other people, they just want to be able to kick back and chill when they hang out with others. They don't want that constant sense of urgency of having to move or be somewhere or do something. They just want to kick back and chill. So it really depends on what you're looking for other people, what you want, and those people are either going to be there in real life, or you're going to find them online, or you're going to meet them at furry conventions, wherever you happen to go, And remember, nothing better than meeting somebody for the first time and building a new friendship with them that may last for years. Or, as most cases in the furry fandom, a couple months, when it becomes too hard to stay in contact with that other person. But yeah, I guess as far as a conclusion goes for this video, I want you all to value the people in your life a little bit more. All right? Recognize and just acknowledge that these people are here and that they've, been there with you. They've helped you through thick and thin, maybe. And at the very least, you both have something in common that you can share a common ground with. Because once a friendship ends, that's somebody in your social circle that has kind of faded away. And people, like I said before, they're not replaceable. Everybody's unique. Everybody is, distinct. They are who they are and what they are. Now, saying that, it might make them a little bit difficult to have in a group or certain settings, or maybe there's that one little thing about them that drives you absolutely crazy, but everything else about them is desirable. But just remember, no one's perfect, neither are you, and that, in spite of their shortcomings, as long as they're bringing something positive in your life, whether it's a shoulder to cry on, somebody that is going to be there for you, hell, somebody that you can enjoy their company, just hanging out, talking, that's golden. I'd keep it. My mother, when I was younger, she told me a story. like before I went to college, I think. I complained about my friends to her, and she said that, no, like, she said that she talked about her own experiences, growing up in college. And you gotta bear in mind, she's a Korean lady. Korean ladies have this very bad habit of being incredibly judgmental and also congregating in small groups to gossip about other Korean ladies or families. I don't know what it is. My father likened it to the Korean mob, but, it's true, okay? If any Koreans are watching this right now, I will challenge you that you haven't seen that at least once, either in a restaurant or like when your mother was hanging out with other Korean ladies. But anyway, her standards had increased to the point where it basically disqualified like most other people, so that she wound up alone. She didn't have friends like she used to be because she was getting tired of getting betrayed and backstabbed and lied to and stuff like that. Everybody lies eventually. They're going to lie. They're going to peddle a little white lie. They might peddle a big lie. You challenge them on that, okay? You don't have to take it up the ass. You fucking challenge that person on it. And depending on their reaction, you say, well, all right, that figures. It would have to be a pretty big fucking betrayal to, like, throw them out, baby in the bathwater style. But if they were acting out of malice, yeah, that's a basis to throw somebody out. If they were just doing it for the convenience in that situation, it was a one-time deal, that they don't make it a habit of doing that, that's a little bit more of a gray area. That's really depending on the circumstances and the situation. Before I end this video, there's one other thing I wanted to make mention of. Back in a sec. So, I already talked about whatever came to mind when the topic of friendship came up. What is your dynamic in the group? Are you that meaningful, sort of well-to-do guy that's sort of like the average Joe? The everyman. The one that's, maybe you have an average sense of humor, you have an average sense of place, you are well-meaning in your interactions with others, and you take it on the chin if ever there was a problem. Or maybe you're the social climber. You want to elevate yourself to a place where you can command wide social circles, be the influencer that can influence other people to either have fun with, or to work on a project with, or something like that. Or maybe you're the person that's kind of the quiet guy. You keep a lot of things to yourself, but you recognize a lot that goes on around you. Or maybe you're the bleeding heart. You will go above and beyond for other people to try to make them feel better if they're feeling down. And you're just a bundle of joy wrapped up in this warm little bow, and you prefer a hug over, just a passing glance or a passing fancy with other people. Or maybe you're a born leader, that you can command, respect from other people just from the things that you've been through, or what you've been able to accomplish up to this point in life. I don't know. I don't know you. I know my friends, but at the same time, I don't know everything about them, because no one's just going to reveal all of their innermost, darkest secrets, not even me. And I kind of wear my heart on my sleeve, and I never really consider myself to be deceitful or, a liar. But I do keep things to myself, certain things, but I do share a lot as well. Depends on the circumstance, They're without reason or purpose. You don't just, flip open that book that happens to be your inner mind to anybody that happens to ask. People are automatically going to learn things about you based on how you respond to certain situations or certain things that they say, or maybe even your preferences or things like that, You cannot foster that sense of, like, closeness that you might be thirsting for with other people. That's something that has to build naturally over time. And I say that because that will sort of dictate, how readily people will open up to you and how openly people will want to hang out with you and spend time with you. Because, at the end of the day, that's what you want, right? You want people to like you. You want people to, be willing to even consider inviting you to, like, a social occasion, whether it be in VR, real life, even online. And, there's plenty of people out there that are just like, they get really fucking furious if they're not invited to some sort of social occasion, but other people were. So, let's talk about that real quick before we end all this. I will just say this. I consider myself sort of a social Ronian. I kind of just drift between different friend groups. I'm not necessarily... I call no friend group my own because I don't feel like I'm a part of a group. I am knowledgeable of a variety of different groups and the people within, and I sort of drift between groups. I'm not the only one that does this. There's plenty of people that I've spoken to that are kind of the same way. They don't have one de facto group that they opt for. They drift between groups as it is, either convenient or relevant for them to do so. And other people, they take it a step further. They actually separate their friend groups because they are either fearful or they actually know that if all of those different friend groups combined, the differences between the groups would be cause for some conflict between people. Remember, people think and they have a different perspective on things other than either you or the people that you associate with. Your friends may not get along with each other. They'll get along with you, but they might not like each other for whatever reason. So everyone's different in that sense, I guess what you need is just recognize your personality, your mode of character, what you can absolutely tolerate and what you can absolutely not tolerate, and go out there and just try to meet new people, see what sticks, see what doesn't stick, and hope for the best. And remember, just because you foster a rapport with somebody doesn't necessarily make them a friend, any more than when you get friends, they're not going to be there for you forever. They might be, but, they have a lot of shit on their plate, I would imagine, as far as problems and challenges and struggles that they share, that they're dealing with. And all the while, as time moves on, whether it be from weeks to months to years, both of you are changing. Your experiences will differ slightly. Now, that can either enhance your relationship, where you have a sense of empathy with that other person because you've been through the same experiences that they have, or they will be experiencing something a little bit different from you, and by that same token, they will fall into different friend groups. And the friendship that they had with you will kind of drift away. And I would say the best advice I can give in that sense, because, you don't want to be that pathetic loser crawling back to them and be like, hey, why can't we hang out like we used to, bud? You can say something. I'm not admonishing you for that. But if they give you feedback that is direct and honest, and they just, admit, like, dude, I just don't feel like we're friends anymore, accept it, cry about it if you have to, move on. There's plenty of other people out there for you to meet and to foster good rapport with. In some cases, the friendships that die today will, your diverted focus from that will enable you to meet better people. But you should never relish in that ideal. You should never hope that, I'm going to have so much better friends than you all. It's something that you will recognize subconsciously when it happens. But yeah, all that to say, stay true to yourself. Don't feel like you're obligated to change to fit the ideals of other people. They should accept you for who you are, what you're all about, and if you have a mutual respect, they will. And, you'll be all the better for it. You should never have to feel compelled to pretend like you're something you're not. Because at the end of the day, you're going to slip up and fuck up sometime in that act of yours. The mask is going to slip. They're going to recognize that. They're going to have lingering questions and confusion. And then, there's going to be that sense that maybe you're not as authentic as they thought you were. So don't ever put yourself in that situation, all right? Just, be yourself, obviously. Now, before we part pass on that, while you are being yourself, there's things that you can do, all right? You should expose yourself to new experiences, and you should start learning things that you have an interest in. You a photographer? You like taking pictures? Why don't you take a course on it? You like dancing? Why don't you take a course on that too? You should always look to better yourself in whatever way you can. Hell, maybe you are, like a doodler. You think you can draw art. Why don't you take a course on that? Or just study online, go on YouTube, try to employ every different exercise that you can to be a better artist. Be a better you than what you are now. You should always be looking to develop yourself. It doesn't end with like middle school and high school. It doesn't end with college. Because learning, that's lifelong, I'm not saying that you should take the path of the scholar and like fastidiously be reading books every day, but it would help if you did read some books, because that's going to also expand your knowledge base. And you don't have to broadcast that you're some fucking nerd. You can keep that to yourself. But other than that, you should be looking to improve yourself, your prospects, and anything about you through thick and thin. Anyway, I think I've talked about the subject matter long enough. I'm sure that each and every one of you is doing just fine as far as friends go. Maybe you just need this subtle reminder, We can make things a little bit better than they already are. But it's going to take some effort on your part and possibly your friends. Anyway, till next time, guys, take care and peace. I hope you all have a better one. Hey fellas, thanks for watching the video. I hope y'all enjoyed it. Would you care to hit that like button and subscribe for more? I greatly appreciate it.